All right, everybody, thank you for our patience. We're going to start our meeting. It is 9:02, and we're going to call us to order, and we will start with our roll call, please.
Chair Dr. Holmes Sutton. Vice Chair Thigpen.
Here. Here.
Member Dr. Aldaba. Member Haddad Bennett.
Present.
Member Salcido. Member Shante Rosales.
Present.
Member Stern.
Present.
Member Whitaker.
Present.
Student Representative Baru.
Present.
Thank you.
Thank you. Will everyone please rise and join us for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for one nation, under God, indivisible, liberty. Thank you. Our next agenda item is public comment. Ms. Teresa, is there any public comment online?
There is not.
And is there any public comment in the boardroom? Okay, thank you. Seeing none, we're going to move on to the approval of our consent agenda. And for this, I believe I will need a motion.
Member Haddad Bennett, motion to approve the consent agenda.
Thank you, and I'll need a second.
Member Whitaker to second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Going on to agenda item number 4, the SPCSA Charter School Governing Body Governance Standards. And that will be by Ms. Courtney Stern.
Good morning, everybody. Member Stern for the record. For today, I wanted us to focus on our governance standard number 1, which is looking at our focus on student growth, achievement, and social emotional well-being. I thought that this was a good selection for today, given the content of our agenda in looking at our renewal for our schools. So this standard asks us to focus on the academic performance expectations established by the State of Nevada State Public Charter Authority and to commit to academic, behavioral, social, and emotional success of our students, set ambitious, attainable goals, establish objectives for student social and emotional well-being, and monitor that progress, analyze it, and use data to inform our decisions, which is very representative of what we are going to be doing today here. And so I would ask that we keep that in mind as we are discussing and making decisions on the renewal of our charter schools. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that. We are going to move on to agenda item number 5, which is the SPCSA Executive Director's Report. Melissa Mackinnon.
Good morning, everyone. Thank you again for your patience. Hopefully this is our permanent new system. So we're getting it figured out. I want to highlight the work of Doral Red Rock in its CTE program. Not only the good work they are doing in the 3 CTE programs they offer, which include digital game development, computer science, and video production, but also the way they are utilizing paraprofessionals in those classes. And so to do that, I'm not going to play the whole video for you, but I am going to play just a snippet of it because I think it's really cool. Sorry, hopefully you guys can see my screen. Let's see. Well, I wanted to show you this really cool video that they made, but I don't know how to get the sound to you without getting a weird feedback from my computer with this mic. So I apologize for that, but I'm just going to let it play for just a few minutes and kind of highlight for you what they're doing. Essentially, they are using paraprofessionals to support students who need extra support in their CTE programs, one of which is video production. And they put together this video it's so well done. It's 7 minutes long. I'm actually working on getting a link directly from the school so that I can share it with you. The only link we have is like our state link, and it won't let me share it with you. But it's a really, I mean, you can see here, like, they've got a really great operation going, and throughout the video, the kids give testimonials about like the benefits of having those paraprofessionals in those classes, essentially having extra adults in the room to offer the support they need to be successful. And so I just hats off to them. It's a really cool program, and a really, they're just really doing a great job with that CTE program, or those CTE programs that they have going over there. So next up, we're happy to report that Teach and Explore have paid off their PERS debt. As a reminder, the remaining schools are on a repayment plan and continue to make payments. Regarding the school closure of Teach and Eagle, Teach, as mentioned, received some outstanding payments and could pay off their PERS. They also are working with Clifton Larson Allen to conduct their final audit. Mr. Kern resolved the CSP receivables issue and appreciates everyone at Opportunity 180 who helped navigate that complicated process. And as such, their audit will be starting here shortly. Regarding the upcoming legislative session, the SPCSA has established a fiscal notes working group made up of a diverse type of school leaders. We really appreciate their willingness to take on this extra task for the betterment of the sector. Our bill, AB 39, is linked in the memo online, and it is live. You can go read our bill if you're interested in that sort of thing. And then lastly, I was able to present at the Nevada State School Board of Education on December 4th regarding the academic progress of charter schools in our portfolio. And then yesterday, we appeared before the Interim Finance Committee regarding the Title IIA allocation. The SPCSA was asking to use money from reserves to help offset significant unplanned reduction to fiscal year 25 allocations. So that is my ED update, and I'm happy to take questions on any of those topics that you may have.
Thank you so much for that. Do we have any board members with questions online? Any in the room? All right, thank you. We're going to move on to agenda item number 6, the 4-year graduation rates.
I'm going to hand this over to Brandon to conduct. He'll do the next 2 agenda items.
Good morning, members of the authority. My name is Brandon Gaitan. I'm an SPCSA staff member. Today, I'll present the class of 2023-24 4-year graduation rate data. Note these data are for students that graduated in approximately May or June of 2024. Here's an outline of today's presentation. First, we'll provide an overview of how graduation rates are calculated. Second, we'll report a few SPCSA highlights and then discuss SPCSA rates and how the SPCSA compares across the state. Next, we'll provide rates at the SPCSA school level with year-to-year changes, and then we'll examine the SPCSA and state graduation rates for various student groups. Finally, we'll discuss advanced and college and career ready or CCR diploma rates for the SPCSA and state. Let's start with an overview of graduation rates. Schools start with a cohort of 9th graders, and this cohort is adjusted when students transfer in and students transfer out. At the end of 4 years, a 4-year graduation rate is calculated. Nevada also calculates a 5-year graduation rate after 5 years. These 4 and 5-year graduation rates are included in the annual Nevada School Performance Framework, or NSPF, high school star ratings. The 4-year graduation rate is worth 25 points, and the 5-year graduation rate is worth up to 5, and the advanced or CCR diploma measure is worth up to 5. The focus of today's presentation is the 4-year graduation rates, as the 5-year rates for the class of 23-24 are not yet available. This slide shows overall SPCSA graduation rate highlights.
If you've just joined the meeting, can you make sure you're muted, please?
This slide shows overall SPCSA graduation rate highlights. First, the 4-year graduation rate for the SPCSA class of 23-24 was 83.3%, a rate that outperformed the state graduation rate for the 5th consecutive year. When it comes to SPCSA schools, all schools except one outperform the state rate, and 23 schools are projected to earn the full 25 points under the 4-year graduation rate measure in next year's NSPF star ratings. Speaking to student groups tracked in Nevada, 10 out of the 14 SPCSA student groups outperform their state peers, including various race, ethnicity groups, students with disabilities, and English learners. And finally, over half of SPCSA graduates were awarded a more rigorous advanced or college and career ready, or CCR diploma, which are diploma types above and beyond the Nevada standard diploma. This chart shows the 4-year graduation rate trend for the past 5 years for the SPCSA versus the state. The state is shown in the dark blue, while the SPCSA is shown in the gray blue. We've also included in gray data for the SPCSA that excludes schools rated on the Nevada Alternative Performance Framework. Those are schools that serve unique populations of students, such as students that are credit deficient. As mentioned in the highlights, this year the SPCSA at 83.3% outperformed the state, which was at 81.6% for the 5th year in a row. However, the SPCSA rate did decrease half a percentage point over last year from 83.8 to 83.3, and 3.5 percentage points from the high in the class of 2021 of 86.8%. Now that we've seen the SPCSA rate and how it compares to the state, let's examine how the SPCSA compares to school districts across Nevada. This chart shows that aside from outperforming the state, seen in the dark blue bar, the SPCSA, seen in bright blue, outperformed 6 Nevada districts, including Clark, Washoe, and Carson. The districts that the SPCSA that outperform the SPCSA are all small districts. So therefore, the SPCSA is the largest district with the highest graduation rate. Additionally, as mentioned previously, after excluding SPCSA schools rated on the Nevada Alternative Performance Framework, which are schools that serve unique student populations, the SPCSA rate is amongst the highest in the state, and you can see that in the gray bar at 95%. After discussing the overall SPCSA rate and situating it within Nevada, let's move on to individual SPCSA school performance. This slide shows the class of 23-24 4-year graduation rates for SPCSA high schools. Schools are ordered left to right from high to low graduation rate. By the school names at the bottom, we also show for reference the population size, which is the sum of graduates plus non-graduates in the school labels there. As mentioned in the highlights, all SPCSA schools except one outperform the state. While Beacon Academy's rate is lower than other schools, they do serve a unique population of at-risk students, and because of that, Beacon is approved to be rated on the Nevada Alternative Performance Framework. 7 schools at the far left had 100% graduation rates, while 23 had a rate at or above 89.4, and you can see that with the line and the note in the top right there. That means they will receive the full 25 points in next year's NSPF star ratings under this 4-year graduation rate measure. This slide displays year-over-year percentage point changes in graduation rates by SPCSA school, ordered by largest change to smallest. The SPCSA and the state are included for reference. And in the change column, increases are noted in green and decreases in red. 18 SPCSA schools were at or above their graduation rate from last year. Note that 5 schools did replicate their 100% grad rate from last year. And although a number of schools declined, most changes were not drastic and were only driven by a few students. Let's now discuss graduation rates by student population. This slide displays SPCSA SPCSA graduation rate trends over the last 3 years by student group. Out of the 10 student populations shown here, 6 improved over last year, while 4 decreased. Additionally, about half of the populations lag the overall SPCSA rate. These are the dark blue bars that are lower than the dashed line, which is the current SPCSA rate. So the groups trailing the overall SPCSA rate include Black African American, Hispanic Latino, FRL, ELL, and IEP. So therefore, opportunities remain to improve educational outcomes for all students. This slide displays state student group graduation rates versus those at the SPCSA for this year. The state shown in the dark blue, SPCSA is shown in the gray blue. We've used up triangles in green and down triangles in red in the data table at the bottom to help show whether the SPCSA group is above or below the state group rate, respectively. 10 out of 14 SPCSA student groups outperform their corresponding state group. The major groups are shown on this slide here, with the remaining in the attachment. The groups that did not outperform the state group this year were Hispanic Latino, FRL, foster, and military connected populations. Of note, English learners outperformed the state group by over 5 points. Additionally, as shown in the attachment, when excluding SPCSA schools rated on the alternative performance framework, again, those are schools serving unique populations, all SPCSA student groups with a sufficient population size outperformed their corresponding state groups. This slide shows additional data related to diploma types that are collected as part of the graduation rates. This chart displays the percent of state and SPCSA graduates that received an advanced or college and career ready or CCR diploma, which are Nevada diploma types with more rigorous requirements than the standard diploma. The NSPF's star rating system does include a measure of school rates of students earning these advanced or CCR diplomas, and that is worth up to 5 points as a reminder. As noted in the highlights, over half, 54.7% in this case, of SPCSA graduates received an advanced or CCR diploma. Additionally, SPCSA schools have provided proportionately more advanced or CCR diplomas than the state in the past few years. This slide drills down further on those advanced and CCR diplomas, displaying school level data. The overall SPCSA and state rates are included for reference. Of note, 11 SPCSA schools had 75% or more of their graduates receive a more rigorous advanced or CCR diploma. That included Equipo, Leadership Academy, and 8 Nevada State high school campuses, as well as Coral Academy, Sandy Ridge. In the NSPF star rating system, the advanced or CCR diploma measure awards 5 points to schools with a rate at or above 53.3%, shown in the note in the upper right, meaning that 17 schools will earn the full 5 points in next year's star ratings under this measure. This is the final slide related to the more rigorous advanced college and career ready diplomas, which displays the percent of SPCSA student groups that received an advanced or CCR diploma versus their state peers. Although every SPCSA student group outperformed the corresponding state group, as shown in the green up triangles, many students graduated with less rigorous diplomas that may not prepare them for college and careers as well as others. One can compare each SPCSA group in the lighter blue to the overall SPCSA rate represented by the dotted line. Various race ethnicities in the FRL, ELL, and IEP groups earn proportionately fewer advanced CCR diplomas than other groups such as Asian and white students. This again demonstrates the challenges that certain SPCSA populations face. That brings us to the conclusions, which are a recap of what we've discussed today. First, the 4-year graduation rate this year was 83.3%, a rate that outperformed the state for the 5th consecutive year. Second, all SPCSA schools but one outperformed the state rate, and 23 are projected to earn the full points under the star rating system next year. Third, in regard to student groups, 10 out of the 14 tracked student groups outperformed their state peers, including various race ethnicity groups, students with disabilities, and English learners. And then finally, over half of SPCSA graduates were awarded a more rigorous diploma type. One item to take under consideration, as we mentioned a couple times during this presentation, is that the overall SPCSA and student group graduation rates are influenced by schools that are approved to be rated on the Nevada Alternative Performance Framework, again, which is reserved for schools that serve a unique population of at-risk students. For additional data that exclude these schools, you can refer to the various prior slides and also the attachment. That concludes the presentation. As I mentioned, there's an attachment that includes tables with four-year graduation rates for the class of 23-24 by population, by school. Thank you for your time. Happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions from any board members online? Are there any questions from any board members in the room? Okay, thank you so much for that. We are actually going to take a 5-minute break to work on some technical issues. So just be patient with us for a moment and we will be right back.
Tanya, can you hear us?
Yes, are you able to hear me?
Yes, you're good. Thank you.
Thank you.
And Victor, can you hear us?
I can. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, everyone, we're going to resume the meeting. It's currently 9:29. Just a quick announcement. If you are a participant, board member, please refrain from using the chat. It's popping up for everyone and it's a little distracting during the meeting. Thank you all so much. Okay, we're going to continue with agenda item 7, which I believe is also going to be done by Brandon. School year enrollment data.
Yes, but there's no video feed from the boardroom.
Okay. Give us a second because we can see it here.
Brandon, can you go ahead and stop sharing your PowerPoint presentation?
Oh, you're back.
Great. Okay. Are we good now? I am not IT, but okay. All right. We're good. We're going to continue.
Okay, again, good morning, members of the authority. My name is Brandon Gaitan. I am an SPCSA staff member. Today, I will present the official 2024-25 school year SPCSA student enrollment data. Here's an outline of today's presentation. First, we'll provide an overview of the annual student enrollment data collected across Nevada. Second, we'll report a few SPCSA highlights and then show SPCSA total enrollment and how that compares across the state. Next, we'll discuss enrollment trends for the SPCSA and also compare those to the state. Then we'll report on enrollment for SPCSA schools that have recently opened. This slide provides an overview of the annual enrollment data collected by the Nevada Department of Education. Annually, around October 1st, the NDE takes a snapshot of student enrollment across the state. This date is commonly known as Validation Day. These enrollment data are collected by student with various information attached to their records, including but not limited to race, ethnicity, free or reduced price lunch, eligibility or FRL, disability status, which is students with an individual education program or IEP, and English language learner status or ELL. Data are validated by school districts, the SPCSA, and SPCSA schools. Once Validation Day data are finalized, they're used for official federal and state reporting and funding. For example, official enrollment data are submitted to the U.S. Department of Education, displayed on the Nevada Report Card website, used on NSPF school star rating reports, and in the SPCSA needs assessment. Additionally, these data help the NDE and the SPCSA determine certain funding. On this slide, we'll speak to the overall SPCSA enrollment highlights. First, the official SPCSA enrollment for the 24-25 school year is 63,609 students. With that number of students, the SPCSA is and remains the third largest LEA or school district in Nevada, trailing only Clark and Washoe counties. Of note, over 50% of SPCSA students, which is about 33,000 students, are enrolled at Title I schools, which are schools serving high rates of students eligible for free or reduced price lunch, or FRL. This is up from about 45% last year. Finally, the last highlight demonstrates the continuing diversification of the SPCSA population. Per the SPCSA strategic plan, the SPCSA strives to serve a population representative of the state and of the areas SPCSA schools serve. Enrollment rates increased year over year for certain populations, such as students identifying as Asian, Hispanic, Latino, or two or more races, economically disadvantaged students, those that are eligible for free or reduced price lunch, students with disabilities or those with IEPs, and finally, English language learners, also known as ELLs. Lastly, enrollment rates decreased year over year for students identifying as white. This slide displays recent annual SPCSA Validation Day enrollment counts. Again, as mentioned in the highlights, the official SPCSA enrollment for this year is 63,609 students, which is shown at the far right on the chart. That is about a 2.7% increase over the 2023 count of 61,883. We've displayed year-to-year percent changes on the chart to demonstrate that while percentage growth was in the double digits some years ago, the SPCSA has recently seen more steady, controlled growth. This slide situates 24-25 school year SPCSA enrollment within the state. The pie chart on the left shows that the SPCSA is the third largest district in Nevada, enrolling about 13% of the total Nevada student population, as shown in the bright blue slice. The SPCSA remains behind Clark County, which enrolls about 63.3% of students, and Washoe County, which enrolls about 13.3%. The SPCSA was the third largest district in Nevada last year as well. For reference, the table on the right shows additional detail displaying 24-25 enrollment counts and percent of the state for each school district in Nevada. After seeing total enrollment for the SPCSA and how that fits into enrollment across the state, let's examine student population trends for the SPCSA. This chart displays a 3-year trend for certain student groups, including 7 race ethnicity categories: English language learners, economically disadvantaged students, or those eligible for FRL, and students with disabilities, which are those with an IEP. Under race ethnicity, Asian, Hispanic, Latino, and 2 or more races, enrollment rates have increased for the SPCSA each of the last 2 years. The white enrollment rate has decreased each of the last 2 years, and other populations have remained relatively steady. Looking back even further, which we're unable to show due to lack of space, the Hispanic Latino enrollment rate has increased each year since at least 2014, while the white group rate has decreased. Moving to the groups on the right of the slide, the EL, FRL, and IEP populations have also experienced enrollment rate increases each of the last 2 years. Looking back even further, the FRL rate has increased from about 20% in 2015 to the current rate of almost 64%. Following the look at SPCSA student group trends, this slide displays a comparison between this year's student group enrollment rates at the SPCSA and the state. The state is shown in the dark blue, while the SPCSA is shown in the blue-gray. In the data tables at the bottom of the chart, we added icons to help you compare SPCSA student groups to the state. The up triangles in green signify the SPCSA student group enrollment rate is above the respective state group. Yellow dashes signify a rate equal to the state group, and down triangles in red signify a rate below the state group. Let's start with race ethnicity on the left. Compared to the state, the SPCSA enrolls proportionately more students identifying as Asian, Black African American, white, or 2 or more races. In contrast, the SPCSA enrolls proportionally fewer Hispanic Latino and American Indian Alaska Natives than the state. The Pacific Islander population rates are about the same. Moving to the 3 student populations on the right, the SPCSA enrolls proportionately fewer English learners, economically disadvantaged students, those that are FRL eligible, and students with disabilities than the state. The SPCSA is making progress towards serving a population representative of the state, as many differences versus the state have been steadily closing over the last few years. Additionally, as you'll see on the next slide, due to recent initiatives and state legislation, student group enrollment rates at new SPCSA schools are more representative of the state. There's one additional note in regard to FRL, or free and reduced price lunch rates. As shown in the box at the top right, over 70% of schools across the state are community eligibility provision, or CEP schools, which may end up over-reporting FRL numbers. Schools that have direct certification FRL rates above 40% are eligible to apply for CEP, where they can serve meals at no cost to all enrolled students without collecting applications, which reduces paperwork and staff burdens. But the issue is at CEP schools, the entire student body is reported as FRL, even though not every student may technically qualify. Additionally, over the past few years, the number of CEP schools in the state has increased. So just taken together, it's likely that FRL rates are overreported across the state, but it's unclear by how much. Let's now look at enrollment at SPCSA schools that have recently opened. Owing to recent initiatives and state legislation that have resulted in more strategic authorizing, such as the incorporation of a demographic and academic needs assessment into authorizing decisions, there are some positive trends toward the SPCSA serving a population more representative of the state. This chart shows enrollment rates for the state in dark blue, the SPCSA in gray, And in brighter blue, SPCSA schools that have been approved post-implementation of the aforementioned needs assessment. These newer schools are displayed in the text below the chart. Overall, these newer SPCSA schools are serving a population that is more representative of the state. For example, newer SPCSA schools serve a larger population of Hispanic Latino students and a smaller proportion of white students than both the SPCSA overall and the state. In addition, the ELL rate at newer schools bests the state and the SPCSA, while the FRL rate is better than the SPCSA overall, but not yet quite at the state rate. That brings us to our takeaways regarding this year's enrollment data. Again, the official 24-25 school year enrollment is about 63,609 students, which is about a 2.7% increase year over year. The SPCSA continues to be the third largest school district in Nevada, and over 50% of students are enrolled in Title I schools in the SPCSA. Year over year, SPCSA enrollment rates increase for certain populations, including students identifying as Asian, Hispanic, Latino, or two or more races, as well as English language learners, FRL eligible students, and students with disabilities. And then enrollment rates decrease for students identifying as white. The SPCSA aims to serve a population representative of the state and the districts its schools are located within. Despite year-over-year enrollment rate increases in certain populations, the SPCSA does serve proportionally fewer students identifying as Hispanic Latino, FRL, eligible students, students with disabilities, and English learners than the state. However, as evidenced by new school enrollment data, the SPCSA is making progress towards serving populations representative of the state. As we move forward, authorizing decisions will help the SPCSA meet that goal. Additionally, as included in the November meeting materials, various historically underperforming student groups served by the SPCSA continue to outperform their state peers in various measures of academic performance, such as proficiency and graduation rates. That concludes the presentation. For your reference, there's also an attachment with enrollment data tabulated by school. Thank you for your time. I am happy to take any questions.
Thank you. Sorry, it wouldn't turn on. Are there any questions from any board members online? Any questions from board members in the room?
This is Member Haddad Bennett. I have one question about the FR. I just want to drill in a little bit, drill down on the FRL and the sort of CEP piece that you were discussing. So if you go back a couple of slides, yeah, this one. So the SPCSA economically disadvantaged rate includes CEP, like full CEP eligible schools and schools that are still tracking via FRL that haven't met that threshold. So it's a combination of both of those. Am I understanding that correctly?
Brandon Gaitan for the record, yes, that is correct. The FRL rate includes any student that is identified as FRL eligible. That could be from a school that is not participating in CEP, or it could be from a school that is participating in CEP, where every student, regardless of whether they technically qualify, is still labeled as FRL in these data.
Okay, so that was, thank you. Sorry, Patricia had it then. So the makeup or sort of the inputs for that 63.9% for the SPCSA is essentially the same as it is for the state, where you're going to have full CEP schools and then partial, right, schools with a handful or underneath that threshold of kids that are eligible for FRL. So, okay, because my concern was like, are these numbers, like, can we compare them? But it seems like we can. It's just a question of how accurate it is of saying 85% or 63.9% of students are economically disadvantaged because of the nuance with the CEP.
Brandon Gaitan for the record. Sort of, I would note that as shown in the note here, 70% of schools across the state are CEP, whereas only 40% within the SPCSA are. So you can compare these, but that there are some differences between the proportion of schools that serve or that participate in CEP. So it's a little more nuanced.
Okay,
and that's why we make those notes about, taking under consideration that these data may be overreported across the state.
Yeah, okay, that's helpful. Thank you. I appreciate it.
And Member Haddad Bennett, if I could just add one more thing. Obviously, Clark County is CEP eligible, so that obviously significantly kind of skews that state number.
Definitely. And I understand that. I guess, where my train of thought is going is, is FRL the most appropriate way to be looking at and tracking economically disadvantaged students, like the rate of students. But I think that's a larger statewide question than it is
For sure.
necessarily for us.
And in fact, you will see in our strategic plan, this is historically how we've always done it, but in our strategic plan, we're making a shift to look to Title I rather. I'm not even saying Title I is perfect, but I think it's more representative than the FRL rate. Again, keeping in mind that CEP eligibility has dropped from 40% to 25%. So if you are a county, a school that has 25% of your kids qualifying, you can become CEP eligible, which is great. It's a great program. Understand all the reasons for it, but it definitely skews FRL data significantly. So we are slowly kind of making a shift to Title I, and that's why we updated it in the strategic plan, which you'll see here in a minute.
Great. Any other questions in the boardroom? This is Member Shanti Rosales. I had a quick question, I guess more of a little bit of clarification. The slide after this one that's currently up, I think you stated that across the demographics, certain ones increased. I think you said the Hispanic and Latino and Asian population increased a little bit more. I guess I'm looking a little clarity. Do we know if that's increased? Because I know these numbers are for all of our schools in general. Can we tell if they are just in the schools that we have recently opened in certain areas versus our other schools that have already been existing? And I am asking this question because I'm trying to see if, because of our due diligence to make sure that these schools are accessible for certain demographics and in certain areas, if those are the ones that are increasing those numbers versus are they also increasing in other schools that are, for example, just in other areas that may not be I'm choosing words very carefully, may be considered our lower income or higher diversity areas. For example, and this is just an example, Durrell Red Rock sits right at the base of Summerlin. Did their Hispanic and Asian populations also increase significantly, or is it just in our newer schools, such as like the Civica and area in those areas?
Melissa Mackin, for the record, I'll jump in and then Dr. Gaitan can add what he wants. I think one thing I will say is in the additional supplemental material, it does break it down by school, and I believe it has like their track record, so you can kind of see. But what I will also remind everyone is that in some of these schools, they when you say significant, I want to remind everyone that a lot of these schools don't have a lot of turnover. So they don't have a lot of opportunity, right? Like I'm just going to use Oasis as an example because that's the one I can speak to, right? We might get 0 openings from one year to the next in 4th grade. And they might have like 2 openings in 5th grade, but they're siblings waiting to get in, right? So if they're full and they have siblings waiting, it's harder to move the needle significantly. Where you can move the needle is in kindergarten, right? Because that you're taking in, yes, you're going to have probably a sibling preference, but let's just say you have 72 seats in kindergarten and you have 40 of those are siblings, that's happened, right, to me before, right? So 40 of those kids get in, but you do have room to move the needle with those other 32. So I'm just saying that so when you look at it, you understand like there are limitations because they don't have a lot of turnover necessarily at those schools. Not trying to say it's not still a goal or a priority and that those schools shouldn't be working towards that because they absolutely should. And there's definitely things they can do to help with that. But I want to keep expectations in line for what's realistic.
Thank you. I just wanted like a little bit of clarity around that because we're saying they increased, but and as you just stated, even if it's like 1 or 2 students, that's an increase. Like you said, it's harder. I know our schools in Northern Nevada, it's probably harder for them to bring in more native students and things of that nature, depending on where they are. So I just was trying to kind of wrap my head around how those numbers were kind of coming in.
Yeah, I mean, I think they've increased. I got scared by the word significant there. So I don't want to say anything has been significant. I do think it's our newer schools that have opened since we instituted the demographic needs assessment who have bulked these numbers up for us, in all honesty. Not to say there's not some outliers out there who maybe haven't, but I think all that information, and I'll let Dr. Gaitan add to it, but it's all in that supplemental material too, by school.
Thank you. And maybe significant wasn't the proper word. Just increase. Don't want to scare anybody.
Dr. Gaitan, is there anything you want to add to that?
Brandon Gaitan for the record. I will say that the attachment, I believe, only includes rates for this year, but we could definitely provide year-over-year comparisons for each of our schools for each student population in the future as well.
Thank you so much. Any other questions? Okay. Then we are going to move on to our next agenda item, which is agenda item number 8, Pilot Ed Cactus Park Elementary School Contract Amendment. And I believe this is also for Dr. Katie Broughton.
Yes. Good morning, SPCSA Board. I'm Katie Broughton, the Director of Authorizing for the SPCSA. Pilot Ed Cactus Park Elementary School is requesting a grace period to work on a charter contract amendment relating to their relationship with their current charter management organization, the Pilot Ed Foundation. Cactus Park Elementary was notified in May 2024 that the foundation would be sunsetting in December 2024. As such, the school is building a plan to determine how they will transition after the Pilot Ed Foundation sunsets. SPCSA staff has been working through the various components of this transition with the school, and all parties have agreed on a timeline that allows the school enough time to do their due diligence in making a plan for the school's future. The school and their board will submit a board-approved amendment application to the SPCSA no later than March 28, 2025 for consideration at the SPCSA's April board meeting. For the time being, we are recommending that this board grant them an extension to work through this process. A proposed motion can be found on page 1 of the recommendation memo, which is posted alongside the school's request. Representatives from the school and board are also here should there be any questions for them.
Okay. I see we have a representative from Cactus Park on the line. Did you want to have any comments?
Carly Casto, principal at Cactus Park, for the record. I think Dr. Broughton summed it up nicely, but as she mentioned, our CMO is sunsetting, and we've worked with SPCSA staff to come up with a plan to make sure that it's a smooth transition. So some of the things that we have done is we've opened up formal RFP so that we can take, proposals for that new CMO or EMO role. So that RFP is active. It's open right now. It's posted on our website, and we're accepting proposals. Once we have closed that RFP window, we'll take a look at what comes through with our board, and we'll make sure that we're making a strong decision for our school to weather the change of our CMO. So we are feeling confident about options coming through. So far, we've had interest from a number of different entities, and I'm excited that we'll be able to have a little extra. I'm excited to hopefully be able to have a little extra time to make a good decision for our school and not rush something that is going to, it's going to make an impact for our school. And we want to make sure that what we're choosing is the best option that we have, and we're doing our due diligence. It's not something that we take lightly, and we're, using this as a silver lining opportunity to find another good fit that can help support our school.
Thank you so much. And with that, I will go to any board members online. No questions? Any in the room? So for this particular agenda item, I am going to need a motion, which I believe is on page 2.
One,
1.
bottom of page 1.
This is Member Haddad Bennett. So I'll motion to allow Pilot Ed Cactus Park a grace period until April 18th, 2025 to rectify their breach of charter contract due to the extenuating circumstances, the Pilot Ed Foundation CMO sunsetting on December 31, 2024, as well as to direct Pilot Ed Cactus Park to work with SPCSA to submit an amendment request with the following conditions. That Pilot Ed Cactus Park Elementary submit a board-approved charter amendment application by March 28th, 2025, specifically detailing the transition plan for the 2025-2026 school year through the remainder of their charter contract. And just to say, I wish you guys the best of luck as you are looking for a new CMO, and hope that you guys can get the support that you need.
Thank you. I will also need a second.
Member Salcido can second.
Member Salcido, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so that motion passes. Thank you so much and good luck.
Thank you.
Our next agenda item, number 9, which is the charter school contract amendment applications. SPCSA staff will provide the authority with recommendations related to charter school contract amendment applications. I will move this over to Danny. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the board. Today before you is Beacon Academy. Beacon Academy has submitted an amendment application requesting that the State Public Charter School Authority approve a request to expand enrollment in existing grade levels and facilities beginning in the 25-26 school year, and to remove a supplemental alternative performance framework requirement from its charter contract. Beacon is an alternative high school that serves a large percentage of students who have previously dropped out of school, have a history of poor attendance, and are credit deficient. Beacon operates 2 campuses in Clark County. The West Campus is located at 7360 West Flamingo Road, and the East Campus is located at 1800 East Sahara Avenue. As of the 2024 validation day, Beacon had 928 students enrolled across the 2 campuses. The authority approved the additional East Campus in June of 2020, and the East Campus officially began operation in January 2022. According to the amendment application, the school has been renting the Flamingo property that serves as the West Campus since 2012. The owner of the property agreed to sell the parcel to Beacon, the new facility will include about an additional 12,000 square feet for the school. According to Beacon is requesting an increase in the enrollment cap at both campuses, but the West Campus will see the larger growth in the coming years because of the additional space that the facility will provide. As the ownership transitions to Beacon, the renovation schedule will be implemented in 2 phases, with all work scheduled to be completed by August 2025. The second request Beacon has made in this amendment application is to remove a requirement by the SPCSA to implement a supplemental alternative performance rating that was included in their charter contract in 2016. Beacon noted in its amendment application that in May 2016, the Beacon requested to amend its charter contract by adding the supplemental graduation measurements specific to the mission. The Beacon's charter school alternative performance framework was developed in collaboration with the SPCSA in 2016, along with momentum strategy and research. and Beacon was to serve as the interim framework to the measure until the school was accepted under NDE's alternative performance framework. In July 2018, the Nevada Department of Education identified Beacon as an alternative education school since more than 75% of its students enrolled qualified under alternative education guidelines per NRS 385A.740. SPCSA staff recognizes that Beacon is a unique school and is in fact the only SPCSA charter school that currently qualifies and is rated under the alternative framework. And Beacon is a very important option for students in Clark County who are either credit deficient, have attendance issues. Staff is supportive of Beacon's request to expand its enrollment as an option for students in Clark County and that otherwise may not have the ability to attend a high school. Additionally, as Beacon explained in their amendment application, Beacon is one of few alternative education schools specialized to meet the needs of credit deficient students, and staff finds this to be a compelling reason to allow for the increase in enrollment. Staff are also in full support of removing the requirement for supplemental alternative performance rating that was required as part of the 2016 amendment approval. As I noted before, the Momentum Strategy and Research Alternative Framework was to serve as an interim framework to measure the school's academic performance as it transitioned to NDE's alternative performance framework. Once NDE identified Beacon as an alternative school and the school began receiving ratings under the NDE performance framework, the supplemental framework is duplicative and no longer needed. SPCSA staff also notes the removal of the supplemental framework will have no impact on ratings Beacon receives under the SPCSA or NDE frameworks. And finally, Beacon has shown continued strong organizational and financial performance and has achieved perfect ratings on the last 3 organizational framework ratings and near perfect ratings under the 3 financial performance framework ratings. Thus, SPCSA staff recommends the authority approve Beacon's request to expand enrollment in existing grades and facilities, along with removing that additional supplemental alternative framework from their charter contract. A proposed motion along with some conditions can be found on page 5 of your recommendation memo. I'm happy to take any questions if the board has any, and I believe we do have some representatives from Beacon here today if there are questions for them as well.
Thank you, Danny. Would any members from Beacon like to make any comments if they are online? I can't quite see, so you'll just have to unmute.
Danny Peltier for the record. I don't know if they're actually on. I'm kind of cycling through here. So
we have someone here in person.
Tambry looks like she's there. Okay, perfect.
Good morning. This is Tambry Tondrick for the record. We actually didn't have any comments. I think Danny said it very well. We appreciate your consideration with this amendment.
Thank you. That's good enough. Are there any board members online that have any questions for staff or for the school? Victor Salcido?
Thank you. No questions. I just, I love when we have an opportunity to kind of, bring some attention to a school like Beacon. I mean, it is, one of the schools I think we can be most proud of for the work that they do. And when they come before us with a request for an amendment, when they have a track record like the one they have here, it makes it pretty easy to consider some reasonable requests, which I think these certainly are. And so I'll be in support. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Salcido. Any other members online? Any members in the boardroom? I just want to second what Member Salcido said. It's great. And the increase shows that there are more kids that obviously need the help. So I will need a motion and a second for this.
Member Haddad, so I'll motion to approve Beacon Academy of Nevada's request to, I'm going to take these out of order in what I think is the most important order, remove the supplemental third-party alternative performance framework requirement from the charter contract, one less of those, increase enrollment at both the East and West campuses as detailed in the recommendation memo, and that Beacon Academy work with SPCSA staff to identify and complete pre-opening requirements that pertain to the occupation of the additional building space at the existing West Campus location.
Thank you. I'll also need a second.
Member Whitaker will second.
I have a second from Member Whitaker. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Aye. Any in opposition? Great. That motion passes. Thank you so much and good luck. Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 10. This is the charter school contract renewal applications. The SPCSA staff will provide the authority with SPCSA staff's recommendations related to charter school contract renewal applications. I just want to start this also. If we have any members on the board that have any conflicts, please state those now.
Member Shanti Rosales, I do know that Member Aldaba is having some technical difficulties. She can hear the meeting, but she can't speak. So I will just on her behalf let you know that she will be abstaining from 10C as her students are, or as her own children attend that school. So she will be abstaining on that matter.
Thank you so much for that information. We will go on with this from Dr. Katie Broughton. You're going to present this one. Thank you.
All right. Agenda item 10A is the renewal of the charter contract for AmPlus Academy. AmPlus is a brick and mortar public charter school that currently serves 2,389 students in kindergarten through 12th grade across 2 campuses in Clark County. The AmPlus renewal application describes the key elements of the school. The priorities upheld by the AmPlus standard are academic success, meaningful communication, positive mindset, leadership, unity, and service. These serve to ensure the academic, social, emotional, and developmental needs for all students are met with a data-driven focus that affords students opportunities in college and career readiness. AmPlus Academy identifies a focus on a comprehensive experience for all students. The school follows a continuous model for improvement for students, staff, and school that includes instructive coaching, modeling, and access to various levels of support. AmPlus Academy has consistently exhibited strong academic performance over their charter term, earning 3, 4, and 5-star ratings. The elementary, middle, and high school programs have historically met or exceeded performance expectations according to the Nevada School Performance Framework, or NSPF. This level of performance has been reaffirmed by the SPCSA's Academic Performance Framework ratings, as well as the STAR ratings issued by the Nevada Department of Education for the 2023-2024 school year. AmPlus Academy has not exhibited any major organizational or financial performance concerns over the course of the current charter term. Due to the strong academic performance of AmPlus Academy and their consistent measures being at or above expected performance level throughout the current charter term, SPCSA staff recommends that the authority renew AmPlus Academy for an 8-year term beginning July 1st, 2025. I am available for questions, and I believe we have representatives from the school in attendance as well.
Thank you, Dr. Broughton. As I stated, if you are online, just unmute as I am unable to actually see. If you are here, please feel free to come up.
Hello, this is Rochelle Hewlett. I am the Executive Director of AmPlus Academy, and I am online. And joining me is our Board Chair, Nav Singh, and our Principal, Sarah Barlow.
Thank you. Are there any questions from any board members online? Member Salcido?
Yeah, I promise I won't keep doing this for everyone, but I also just want to congratulate AmPlus for their track record, and again, makes it easy to have a motion like this before us when you have you've already proven it year after year that you know what you're doing and that you're doing a great job for your students and the state of Nevada as a whole. So thank you.
Thank you. Any other board members online? Any board members in the room? Okay, then we'll move on. I will need a motion for this agenda item. I believe it's on page 6.
Member Haddad Bennett, I will make the motion to approve Amplus Academy's renewal application for an 8-year term beginning July 1, 2025, and the change in enrollment cap as outlined above in the recommendation memo. In the event of academic, financial, or organizational underperformance, the authority may impose additional oversight.
Thank you. I'll also need a second.
Member Stern, I'll second. Oh,
I believe that was Member Stern provided the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any in opposition? Great. Thank you and good luck. The next school is Coral Academy of Science. Dr. Broughton?
Danny's going to handle the next few.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Broughton. Thank you, members of the board. Danny Peltier for the record. Coral Academy of Science Las Vegas submitted an application to renew its charter contract as the current charter contract expires on June 30th, 2025. Coral is a brick and mortar public charter school that currently serves 5,517 students in kindergarten through 12th grade across 7 campuses in Clark County. Coral's renewal application describes key design elements, which are centered around a STEM-focused college prep public charter school that gives students in grades K through 12 an opportunity to achieve their full potential. The mission of Coral is to provide a safe, rigorous college preparatory environment that promotes social responsibility and a culturally diverse community dedicated to lifelong learners bound for success. Coral Academy has exhibited strong academic performance over the term, earning 3, 4, and 5-star ratings consistently. The elementary, middle, and high school programs have historically exceeded performance expectations according to the NSPF. This has also been reaffirmed by the 21-22, 22-23, 23-24 SPCSA academic performance ratings, as well as the star ratings issued by the department in 22-23 and 23-24. The Nellis Air Force Base Elementary Campus is the lone exception, earning a 2-star rating under the NSPF, and it does not meet standard rating under the SPCSA's academic performance framework, and is therefore currently under an academic notice of breach that was approved at the November 15th, 2024 board meeting. SPCSA staff would note this campus serves a very unique population with its location on the Nellis Air Force Base, and Nellis Air Force Base campus's middle school received a 5-star rating under the NSPF and an exceeds standard under the SPCSA's performance framework, which shows student growth as they matriculate through the Nellis Air Force Base grades. Coral Academy has not exhibited any major organizational or financial performance concerns over the course of its charter term. Ultimately, because of the academic performance of Coral Academy, has been consistently at or above expected performance levels throughout the current charter term. SPCSA staff recommends that the authority renew Coral Academy for an 8-year term beginning July 1st, 2025. The new term would be subject to the enrollment caps that are outlined in the memo that you have before you today. A proposed motion can be found on page 9 of the recommendation memo. I am more than happy to take any questions, and I believe that we do have some representatives here from Coral who would be happy to speak on behalf of the school as well.
Thank you, Danny. Are there any representatives from Coral in the room or online? I see one coming forward. Thank you.
Good morning. This is for the records Ercan Aydoğdu, Executive Director of Coral Academy of Science, Las Vegas. I am happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from any board members online? Any questions from any board members in the room? Okay, great. Then we'll move forward. I'll just need a motion on this particular agenda item.
Member Whitaker will motion to approve the Coral Academy of Science Las Vegas renewal application for an 8-year term beginning July 1st, 2025, and the enrollment caps as outlined above in the recommendation memo. In the event of academic, financial, or organizational underperformance, the authority may impose additional oversight.
Thank you. I'll also need a second.
Member Haddad Bennett, I'll second.
That was a second by Member Bennett. All of those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
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 Any in opposition? Okay, that motion passes. Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you.
Our next school is Doral Academy of Nevada. As a reminder, we had a small conflict on this one, but we will move forward. I think this is also you, Danny.
Yes, it is. Thank you. Danny Peltz here for the record. Doral Academy of Nevada has submitted an application to renew its charter contract as the current charter contract expires on June 30th, 2025. Doral is a brick and mortar public charter school that currently serves 6,370 students in kindergarten through 12th grade across 5 campuses in Clark County. The Doral renewal application describes the key design elements of the school. The Doral model emphasizes a high-quality education that empowers students to excel academically, develop strong character, and engage meaningfully with their communities. The educational philosophy is rooted in synthesizing several prominent educational models and research sources, each contributing to the holistic approach to nurturing lifelong learners. Doral has consistently exhibited strong academic performance over the charter term, earning ratings that have consistently been 4 or 5 5-star. The elementary, middle, and high school programs have historically exceeded performance expectations on the NSPF, and they have also exceeded performance expectations on the SPCSA's academic performance framework ratings as well. Doral has not exhibited any major organizational or financial performance concerns over the course of its charter term. Ultimately, because of the academic performance of Dan has been consistently at or above expected performance levels throughout the charter term, SPCSA staff recommends that the authority renew Doral for an 8-year term beginning July 1st, 2025. The new term would be subject to enrollment caps outlined in the memo. Proposed motion can be found on page 8 of your memo, and happy to take any questions. And I believe Doral is here as well if there's anything they'd like to add as well.
Thank you, Danny. If there's any members from Doral online, please just unmute, or if you're in the room, feel free to come up.
Sorry, Rodney Saunders, Executive Director for Doral Academy of Nevada. I'm proud to be before you. I also have our administrative team, our executive office team, and a few members from Academica as well. But we're happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from any board members online? Any questions from board members in the room? All right, then we'll proceed with the motion.
Be happy to make it.
That's Member Salcido.
I move that we approve Doral Academy of Nevada's renewal application for an 8-year term beginning July 1st, 2025, and the enrollment caps as outlined above in the recommendation memo. In the event of academic, financial, or organizational underperformance, the authority may impose additional oversights.
Thank you. I'll also need a second.
Vice Chair Thigpen will second.
Thank you, Vice Chair Thigpen. All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any in opposition? Thank you. That motion passes, and good luck.
Thank you.
Moving on to our next one, Founders Classical Academy of Las Vegas. Is this one also you, Danny?
I'm back for this one.
Oh, hi, Dr. Broughton. Thank you.
Katie Broughton for the record. Agenda item 10D is the renewal of the charter contract for Founders Classical Academy of Las Vegas. Founders is a brick and mortar public charter school that currently serves 1,215 students in kindergarten through 12th grade on one campus in Clark County. The Founders Classical Academy of Las Vegas renewal application describes the key design elements of the school. The shared actions of teachers and staff predict the responses of students, making role modeling a centerpiece to the structure of instruction at Founders. The school is active with teachers focused on instruction while students are engaged in active, purposeful reading and/or listening activities. Founders teaches students through thoughtful conversation, scaffolded questioning, and active reading, writing, and listening activities during instruction. Founders has consistently exhibited strong academic performance over the charter term, earning at least 3-star ratings. The elementary, middle, and high school programs have typically met performance expectations according to the Nevada School Performance Framework. This level of performance has been reaffirmed by the SPCSA's Academic Performance Framework ratings, as well as the star ratings issued by the Nevada Department of Education for the 2023-2024 school year. Founders has not exhibited any major organizational or financial performance concerns over the course of the current charter term. Ultimately, because the academic performance of Founders has been consistently at or above expected performance levels throughout their current charter term, SPCSA staff recommends that the authority renew Founders for a 6-year term beginning July 1st, 2025. The new term would be subject to the enrollment caps outlined on page 5, and a proposed motion can also be found on page 5.
Thank you, Dr. Broughton. If there are any representatives from Founders in the room, please come up. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jim Kuzma. I'm the head of school, and this is Mr. Hackman, one of our board members. On behalf of Ron Fick, our current superintendent, we'd like to thank the Charter School Authority for all the hard work that they've done in preparing the report for us, and we very much look forward to continuing to being one of the portfolio schools in the Charter School of Nevada.
Thank you so much. Do we have any questions from any board members online? All right, seeing none. Any board members in the room? Okay, we will proceed with the motion.
Member Aldaba, happy to move to approve the Founders Classical Academy of Las Vegas renewal application for a 6-year term beginning July 1st, 2025, and the enrollment caps as outlined above in the recommendation memo. In the event of academic, financial, or organizational underperformance, the authority may impose additional oversight.
Thank you so much. And can I get a second, please?
Member, second.
Member Whitaker has seconded, and all of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Any in opposition? Great. That was easy. Thank you so much. Good luck. Moving on to our next agenda item is Leadership Academy of Nevada.
Katie Broughton, Director of Authorizing for the SPCSA for the record. Agenda item 10E is the renewal of the charter contract for Leadership Academy of Nevada. Leadership Academy of Nevada is a statewide online public charter school that currently serves 284 students in grades 6 through 12. The leadership renewal application describes the key design elements of the school. Their live online classes, classic leadership education, comprehensive support system, high academic achievement, and unique student body are what makes them unique from other virtual schools. The school's primary focus is on creating principled leaders through the union of academic excellence and principled leadership. The school model teaches students how to think by helping them develop the essential critical thinking skills needed to become leaders in homes, communities, businesses, and government. As described in the recommendation memo, Leadership Academy of Nevada has consistently exhibited strong academic performance over the current charter term, earning 3- and 4-star ratings. The middle and high school programs have met or exceeded performance expectations according to the Nevada School Performance Framework. This level of performance has been reaffirmed by the SPCSA's Academic Performance Framework ratings, as well as the star ratings issued by the Nevada Department of Ed for the 2023-2024 school year. Leadership Academy has not exhibited any major organizational or financial performance concerns over the course of the current charter term. Because the academic performance of Leadership Academy of Nevada has been consistently at or above expected performance levels throughout this charter term, SPCSA staff recommends that the authority renew Leadership Academy for a 7-year term beginning July 1st, 2025. The new term would be subject to the enrollment caps outlined on page 5, and a proposed motion can also be found on page 5.
Thank you, Dr. Broughton. And we already have our representative up here. Thank you.
Yeah, I thought I'd not waste time. I'm Brian Richardson, Executive Director here at Leadership Academy of Nevada. Jory Martin, our board chair, is also online, and we're here for any questions.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from any board members online? All right. Any questions from any board members in the room? Great. We will proceed. I just need a motion, please.
Member Whitaker will motion to approve the Leadership Academy of Nevada renewal application for a 7-year term beginning July 1st, 2025, and the enrollment caps as outlined above in the recommendation memo. In the event of academic, financial, or organizational underperformance, the authority may impose additional oversight.
Thank you. And may I also have a second?
Member Haddad Bennett also.
Thank you for the second. All of those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any in opposition? Great. The motion passes. Thank you so much and good luck with your next 7 years. Our next agenda item is Learning Bridge Charter School.
Katie Broughton, Director of Authorizing for the SPCSA for the record. Agenda item 10F is the renewal of the charter contract for Learning Bridge Charter School. Learning Bridge is a brick and mortar public charter school that currently serves 166 students in kindergarten through 8th grade on one campus in White Pine County. The Learning Bridge renewal application describes the key design elements of the school. The school provides an environment in which students will be immersed in an intense educational experience that will greatly improve their knowledge base and chances for a successful future. They plan to continue to offer instructions for K-8 students, hold classroom enrollment at 22 students, offer one-to-one Chromebooks for each grade level, use the core knowledge curriculum for ELA, and provide teachers the freedom to develop lessons and provide instruction best suited to the students in their classrooms. Learning Bridge has consistently exhibited varied academic performance over the charter term, earning 2, 4, and 5-star ratings. The elementary school program has demonstrated lower academic performance, while the middle school program has exceeded performance expectations according to the Nevada School Performance Framework. These varying levels of performance have been reaffirmed by the SPCSA's Academic Performance Framework ratings, as well as the star ratings issued by the Nevada Department of Education for the 2023-2024 school year. Ultimately, because the academic performance of Learning Bridge Charter School has been inconsistent, SPCSA staff recommends that the authority renew Learning Bridge Charter School for a 5-year term beginning July 1st, 2025. The new term would be subject to the enrollment caps outlined on page 5, and a proposed motion can also be found on page 5.
Thank you, Dr. Broughton. Do we have any representatives from Learning Bridge Charter? Just feel free to unmute if you're online.
Good morning, Dr. Milo Jury, the administrator at Learning Bridge Charter School. I'm here to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions from any members online? Any members in the boardroom? Great. We'll go ahead and I just need the motion for this agenda item.
Member Stern, for the record, I move to approve the Learning Bridge Charter School renewal application for a 5-year term beginning July 1st, 2025, and the enrollment caps is outlined above in the recommendation memo. In the event of academic, financial, or organizational underperformance, the authority may impose additional oversight.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Member Whitaker will second.
Second by Member Whitaker. All of those in favor?
Aye.
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 Thank you. Any in opposition? Great. That motion passes. Good luck. Next agenda item is Matter Academy of Nevada.
This one is going to be me, Danny Peltier, for the record. Matter Academy of Nevada has submitted an application to renew its charter contract, as the current charter contract expires on June 30th, 2025. Matter is a brick and mortar public charter school that currently serves 4,708 students in kindergarten through 12th grade across 3 campuses in Clark County. The Matter renewal application describes the key design elements of the school. Matter is affiliated with and replicates the highly successful Matter Academy charter school network founded in Florida. The Matter Academy network has consistently demonstrated success in elevating academic performance of diverse, disadvantaged, and underserved at-risk student populations, including those from Title I schools, ELL students, students eligible for free and reduced lunch, students with individualized education programs, and students attending underperforming schools. Matter Academy of Nevada has had some varied academic performance, but the majority of schools have exhibited strong academic performance over the course of the charter term, consistently earning 3 or 4-star ratings. The elementary, middle, and high school programs have historically met performance expectations according to the NSPF. This level of performance has been reaffirmed by the 21-22, 22-23, 23-24 SPCSA Academic Performance Framework ratings, as well as the star ratings issued by NDE for the 23 and 24 school year. The Bonanza and East Elementary campuses are the lone exceptions, earning 2-star ratings under the NSPF, but a meet standard rating under the SPCSA's performance framework. Staff would note the middle schools were rated as 3 stars under the NSPF, which shows students' growth as they matriculate through the campuses. Matter Academy has not exhibited any major organizational performance concerns over the course of its charter term. The school was recently issued a notice of concern under the 22-23 school year for a financial notice of concern, but overall, staff has at the school, sorry, talking a lot today, but overall staff has no major concerns with the financial stability of the school, as it has been stable over the majority of the charter term. Ultimately, because the academic performance of Matter has consistently met and at times exceeded performance levels throughout the charter term, SPCSA recommends that the authority renew Matter Academy of Nevada for a 7-year term beginning July 1st, 2025. The new term would be subject to the enrollment caps in the memo that you have before you today. A proposed motion can be found on page 7 of that recommendation memo. Happy to take any questions, and I believe that we do have some representatives from Matter here to discuss any questions you may have as well.
Thank you so much, Danny. Hello.
Hi, Renee Fairless, Executive Director for Matter Academy, to answer any questions, but also to point out that 2-star Matter East was very quickly changed to a 4-star for this most current rating. So just need to put that in public record.
Thank you. Setting the record straight, literally. I respect that. Do we have any questions from any members online, board members online? Any questions from any board members in the room? Okay, I will just need a motion.
I'd be happy to make it.
Member Salcido?
An honor to make this motion of move to approve the Matter Academy of Nevada's renewal application for a 7-year term beginning July 1st, 2025, and the enrollment caps as outlined above in the recommendation memo. In the event of academic, financial, or organizational underperformance, the authority may impose additional oversight. Thank you.
Thank you for that motion. I will also need a second.
Board Member Aldaba for the record, second.
Thank you for the second. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Are there any in opposition? Seeing or hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
And just a small comment, I have been to your campus and your students are amazing and they danced with me. So I really appreciated that.
Thank you. And we do love to dance there for sure. But a little academics and a whole lot of dancing, but either way it works.
It works.
Thank you.
Thanks. Good luck. Our next agenda item is signature preparatory.
Back to me, Katie Broughton, for the record. Agenda item 10H is the renewal of the charter contract for Signature Preparatory. Signature Prep is a brick and mortar public charter school that currently serves 964 students in kindergarten through 8th grade on one campus in Clark County. The Signature Prep renewal application describes the key design elements of this school. The vision of Signature Prep is learn, lead, change the world. Signature Preparatory is a learning organization as the leadership and the employees are continually seeking innovative approaches, techniques, and procedures to improve every aspect of the school's operations. The school balances traditional lesson design with progressive techniques and technology integration to establish an innovative environment where employees and young people understand the importance of being a self-starter, goal setting, prioritizing, listening, teamwork, outcomes, and lifelong learning. Signature Prep has exhibited varied academic performance over this charter term, earning 2- and 3-star ratings. The elementary school has historically not met NSPF performance expectations, but they have met standards on the SPCSA's academic performance framework ratings. The charter school also has a financial notice of concern, but the financial metrics have improved year over year, and 7 of the 8 metrics were meet standards in the most recent financial performance framework rating cycle. The school has not displayed any organizational concerns. Ultimately, because the academic performance of Signature Prep has been inconsistent but met adequate performance levels on some of our measures throughout the current charter term, SPCSA staff recommends that the authority renew Signature Prep for a 6-year term beginning July 1st, 2025. The new term would be subject to the enrollment caps outlined on page 5, and a proposed motion can also be found on page 5.
Thank you, Dr. Broughton. And we have some representatives at the table here in the room.
Good morning, staff and board. My name is Gabe Shirey, Executive Director of Signature Preparatory for the Record. I'm joined here in person by our principal, Dr. Roy Bell Benson, as well as board member Deborah Earle. Joined with us virtually is board chair Michael Olson and board member Raymond Pietro.
Thank you so much for that. Do we have any questions from any board members online? Any questions from any board members in the room? Don't see or hear any questions. I'll just need a motion.
Member Whitaker will motion to approve the signature preparatory renewal application for a 6-year term beginning July 1st, 2025, and the enrollment caps as outlined above in the recommendation memo. In the event of academic, financial, or organizational underperformance, the authority may impose additional oversight.
Thank you. May I have a second, please?
Member Salcido would be happy to second.
Member Salcido, second. All of those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any in opposition? That motion passes. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I believe that completes agenda item 10 completely. We are going to go on to agenda item 11, presentation of the 2025-2030 strategic plan. I think it's Melissa Mackin.
All right. While Teresa gets that pulled up, I have to tell you guys a little anecdote. My daughter is with me today, and she texted me and said, "Why are you even here? You're not on this board and you've done absolutely nothing." So this is my time to shine right here. The next 2 agenda items, I really gotta knock it out of the park, you guys. Brutal. All right. We will start with our, oh, it was up there, Teresa, and now it's gone.
Oh, to a rough start.
I know, I'm never going to live this down. All right. Before we begin to the walkthrough of the final version of the strategic plan, I want to thank the school leaders who participated and provided valuable feedback, much of which has been incorporated into this plan. Additionally, I want to thank the board for their feedback, and as well as the staff, who were very, very intentional in their feedback. Many, many hours have gone into this document, and that is important because it does guide the work of our agency for the next 5 years. So here is our 2025-2030 strategic plan. Teresa, can you go to the introduction? I'm not going to read the whole plan to you. It starts with an introduction to the agency and references other important documents like the academic and demographic needs assessment and the growth management plan. Next page. Next, it provides a brief history of the agency. Next page. Then it jumps to some high-level highlights, including the counties in which we authorize charter schools. Next page. Then it covers our vision and mission. Next page. Page 6 covers the values of the agency, and those include student-focused, excellence through improvement, transparency, accountable autonomy, equity and diversity, and effective leadership. Next page. And finally, on page 7, we get to the meat and potatoes of the plan. Goal number 1, provide communities with access to excellent schools that students and families want to attend. The SPCSA aims for all sponsored schools to meet academic, organizational, and financial performance standard. Our 5-year goals include improve upon existing strong performance on the Nevada School Performance Framework by achieving 60% 4-star or better and 78% 3-star or better. And 85% of schools on the organizational and financial framework intervention ladder will be returned to good standing or not escalated. Next up, we have goal number 2, provide equitable access to charter schools. The SPCSA aims for sponsored schools to serve a student population that is representative of the state in terms of race, ethnicity, and other student groups. The goals include the percentage of Title I schools in the SPCSA portfolio is at or above the percentage of statewide Title I schools. New charter schools opening under this strategic plan will have an ELL enrollment rate at or above their district average. New charter schools opening under this strategic plan will have an enrollment rate of students with IEPs at or above the state average. You will notice that we will be doing a district comparison of schools regarding English language learner enrollment and a statewide average around IEP enrollment. Next page. Goal number 3 underwent the most significant change, and we really appreciate the staff and the board for their vested interest in this portion of the plan. The SPCSA is committed to being a responsive organization. As an agency, the SPCSA aims to have strong communication skills, adaptability, and innovation in our outputs and problem solving. We are committed to executing plans effectively while staying resilient to challenges. The goals include most respondents indicated satisfaction with SPCSA communication during the annual survey. The SPCSA will establish a comprehensive communication strategy to supplement the strategic plan to improve communication internally and externally. The SPCSA will establish streamlined processes for high-performing charter school operators. I know that it was important to the board to include a goal that recognized progress and high-performing operators, and I'm really happy that we were able to work that out and include that in goal number 3. Next slide, or page. We accomplished these goals via our key initiatives that fall into one of these 4 categories: proactive oversight, strategic growth, expanded support, or recognizing progress. Next slide. So let's examine the key initiatives we will focus on over the next 12 months. To help accomplish goal number 1, we will conduct regular site evaluations of SPCSA-sponsored schools with a focus on effective board governance and educational programming. That falls under the proactive oversight strategy. We will codify expectations for strong governance and training for charter school board members, including open meeting law. Also falls under proactive oversight. For goal number 2, we will monitor and report on the number of English language learners who reach English language proficiency as measured by the WIDA. This falls under both proactive oversight, but also recognizes the progress and good work of our schools with English language learners. We will also ensure that the data related to specific subgroups' academic performance compared to the state and school are made accessible. Again, proactive oversight and recognizing the good work and progress of our schools. Next slide. Goal number 3, key initiatives include refining the budget and staffing model, including staffing to combine site visits and risk-based monitoring, which falls under the strategy of expanded support. And I think I've said before, but I want to make sure it's on the record. This was probably the number one thing that I heard about from schools during our stakeholder feedbacks, was trying to minimize the number of site visits or people coming out to their site and sort of, disrupting day-to-day operations. Build and implement pathways to streamline the approval of high-performing models, which also recognizes progress. So the remainder of the document includes, Teresa, you could go to the next page, a glossary of terms, next page. It also includes a one-page summary of the goals, objectives, and key initiatives. And finally, on the last page, it includes all of our contact information with the new addresses of all 3 of our offices that we are soon to have. And with that, I am happy to take any questions.
Thank you so much for that. That was a great summary through each page, too. Do we have any questions from any board members online? None. I don't see or hear any. Any questions from any board members in the room? Okay, we have one question.
This is member Haddad Bennett. So how will the board be updated on our progress on the strategic plan?
Yeah, so annually we do kind of a state of the SPCSA. Generally, I want to say it's in January or February, but that's how we kind of come back and we update you on how we're doing. Now, keep in mind this January, it'll be on our previous strategic plan. But that's how we do it. Yeah.
Great. Any other questions from any other board members? Okay, we have another one.
Yeah, no, great.
Not to be indulgent. How do schools think about, how do prospective schools, because I know that this is a component of the application process for them to look at, right? So how do prospective schools incorporate the strategic plan into their thinking or into their planning? What does the intersection of those things look like?
Yeah, well, hopefully, ideally what they do, right, is they will address our goals and show how their plan will help us meet those goals, or that it is a plan that will help us accomplish our goals. So I mean, that's ultimately how they do it. And like I think Dr. Broughton will say this when you approve the application, but this document has a live link, or the application has a live link to both this document as well as the demographic needs assessment, and certainly would encourage potential applicants. If you're skipping over that step, you're really doing yourself a disservice. Both of these documents, if you will familiarize yourself with them, could really inform your application and make it all the more strong.
And I'll just add one additional sort of specific, and I'll talk about this a little bit in a moment, but Section 3.1 of the application is transformational change, and it does ask applicants to specifically sort of connect their school goals to the goals of the charter authority. So there is a specific section in which they're supposed to do that.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions from any board members online or in the boardroom?
I just had a comment. Member Whitaker, for the record, I just wanted to say good job, you guys. This is, I mean, I know updating and finalizing strategic plans is difficult, and I know the amount of work that goes into that and how much effort was put into it. So I just wanted to say congratulations on getting that updated.
Yeah, good job. Great. Any other comments? No other comments? Great. I believe I need a motion for this particular item or approval.
Member Whitaker, for the record, I motion to approve and adopt the SPCSA 2025-2030 strategic plan.
Thank you. I'll also need a second.
Member Aldaba, for the record, I second.
Thank you. All of those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any in opposition? Great. Good job, staff, on that new updated strategic plan. Okay, we're going to move on then to agenda item 12, which is the 2025 Demographic and Academic Needs Assessment. Director McAdoo?
Okay, awesome. Teresa, can you jump to page 2? Page 3? All right, perfect. Thank you. The demographic needs assessment came about as a result of Assembly Bill 462 in the 2019 legislative session. In the 2019, the Nevada legislature passed Assembly Bill 462, which resulted in various changes to authorizing and accountability practices for public charter schools. I promise I'm not going to read the whole plan, but I am going to read most of the introduction because we do have a lot of new board members, and I just want to really make sure everybody understands how this all came to be. Including statutory requirements for the Nevada State Public Charter School Authority to, 1, annually conduct an evaluation of demographic information of pupils, the academic needs of pupils, and the needs of any pupils who are at risk of dropping out of school in this state, and 2, to incorporate those findings into charter school authorizing decisions. For the initial SPCSA demographic and academic needs assessment approved by the SPCSA board on July 26, 2019, the SPCSA worked with local school districts, municipalities, the Nevada Department of Education, authority members, various stakeholders, and the public to establish definitions for demographic and academic needs. The needs assessment is updated annually, which is what we are doing here today. The SPCSA currently defines demographic and academic needs as follows. Student groups that consistently underperform on the Nevada State Assessment in math and ELA. Every year, the SPCSA looks at that data in Nevada and updates the list within this plan. The following student groups have been identified as historically underperforming. Students qualifying for free or reduced price lunch, English language learners, students with disabilities, those with an individualized education plan or IEP, students in foster care, and students experiencing homelessness. Next page. Academic needs include geographies with consistently underperforming schools, so zip codes with 1 and 2 stars. This list is also updated annually. Academic needs also include students who are at risk of dropping out. Again, SPCSA staff review the data annually to identify these student groups, which include English language learners, students with disabilities, those with individualized education programs or IEPs, students that are homeless, students in foster care, and students identifying as American Indian Alaska Native, Black, African American, or Hispanic Latino. Next page. Let's go to the next page. The updated analysis of the plan begins on page 5. On page 6, which you see before you now, you can find the trends in proficiency over time for free and reduced lunch, IEP, ELL, students experiencing homelessness, and students living in foster care, as well as a breakdown by race and ethnicity. Page 7. Page 7 breaks down this year's analysis of geographies with consistently underperforming schools. It actually outlines the outcomes in all 17 counties within the state. We're going to skip ahead to page 8, just continues that on. So let's go to page 9. Thank you, Teresa. Page 9 provides a graphic representation of student group graduation rates in the state. Page 10. In reviewing an application and developing a recommendation to the authority, SPCSA staff consider an applicant's alignment to the needs assessment and factors raised by the community, including evidence of demand for new schools, whether due to a need for additional facility capacity, students on charter school waiting lists, or families desiring different educational options. SPCSA staff generally make recommendations to the authority based on the approach below, or by the approach in that stoplight that you see there. Ultimately, the authority board votes to approve or deny an application. The authority will most likely make a recommendation or the staff will most likely make a recommendation to approve high-quality applications that address needs identified in the needs assessment utilizing the stoplight approach seen here. So if an applicant doesn't really address any of these needs, it's not as likely to be recommended for approval. We can skip to page 12. On page 12, progress, I just want to point out that progress has been made towards serving a population more representative of the state. The table below shows that the recent demographics of SPCSA sponsored schools that were approved after the implementation of the needs assessment, so getting directly to member Shanti Rosales' question earlier, are more representative of the state's overall student population. The remainder of the plan includes a glossary of the terms and other supplemental information. As you can see, this document can, if utilized properly, be beneficial to committees to form interested in opening a new charter school, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you so much. Do we have any board members that have questions about the demographic and academic needs assessment online? Victor Salcido, member.
Thank you. Thank you for this report, Director McInerney. I had a question concerning on page 10, when you have those 3 different scenarios. I see that in the bottom it says likelihood of approval, right? And it obviously increases depending on how far down to the right it goes. Can you clarify for me though, is a school applicant who falls under scenario 1, does that mean, I also see the word may in there, so I take that to mean it's not necessarily, there's still some discretion, I should say, within whatever else is in their application. Is that correct?
Melissa McInerney, for the record, there is some discretion, certainly. I will say since 2019, I don't think any schools have been recommended for approval who fell into this category, but there certainly is some discretion.
If I could ask a follow-up to that, because I see a scenario, it's essentially, right, it's tied, like you explained, it's tied to geography and it's tied specifically to a zip code. And I know since 2019, when that legislation passed, we've had applicants and we've had schools that were approved that have, for example, been able to implement some strategies to try to mitigate, or I should say, depending on how you want to phrase it, but try to improve how receptive they are and how accessible they are to individuals of need that we've identified above. So for example, I know like Pinecrest, Northern Nevada had a weighted lottery system that took some of those same factors into account to try to increase, right, those populations being served. And I know obviously since the last legislative cycle, public charter schools for the first time have access to transportation dollars, right? And so I think those 2 things are examples of scenarios where maybe we don't need to be quite as tied down to geography as maybe previously we would, because we are able to offer access in ways that maybe aren't just for the surrounding schools. And so kind of piggybacking off of my first question, or those, if a school applicant falls into scenario 1, but they, they implement things such as a weighted lottery for those particular populations, and they do offer a robust transportation program, those things could be taken into account to increase the likelihood of approval, would you say?
Melissa McInerney, for the record, absolutely. If an applicant had a really strong application, and let's say, because of, availability of buildings, right? They needed to be in a zip code where there weren't necessarily 1 and 2 star schools. We would be looking for a really robust plan, and potentially even some evidence of how of how through transportation, weighted lotteries, direct marketing, et cetera, they were prepared to transport students that have a high need to their school. Now, I would just say one thing, right? We did get transportation funding, but it was only for the biennium. So, of course, we know that that is one of our priorities going into the next legislative session, that we will get what we ideally want to get is transportation funded through auxiliary services like all traditional public schools. If that didn't happen, we would need a special allocation like we had last time, right? So neither of those things is a guarantee. So the other thing I would say is if we were to get the exact same allocation that we had last biennium, $15 million, we have maxed it out. So we would not be able to expand transportation to additional schools beyond those that already have it. So in this hypothetical situation you're talking about, a school would have to be able to show that they could absorb the costs of transportation through their general fund dollars unless something happens in the next session and we have additional money or an alternative way of funding transportation. And I do think that continues to add a level of complication to this idea of being in a geography where maybe land is more available,
Right.
but there's mostly high performing schools. So I just want to be clear that there are still some real hurdles in regard to transportation, but certainly could be considered.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to clarify, I mean, I don't think anybody, and I certainly am not trying to kind of find a way around this, right? What we want, and I want to serve those populations that you identified. I just want to, introduce the discussion that maybe tying it all to a zip code, right, is may not be the end all be all to it, right? And that there would be hypothetically ways that an applicant could try to legitimately reach those target populations that on one side of the street is you're in one zip code and on the other side of the street you're on a separate one. So that was all I wanted to kind of mention, but thank you.
Yeah,
Can I
absolutely.
just- Can I just
let me
add
add
one
one thing,
thing?
Katie. Let me add
Okay.
one thing and then you will bounce to you. I would also say that I think if we're going to consider something like that, we really need to do it cautiously and on a small scale first, because what we learned when we first started implementing, we need to see how it works first before we're like, here's a school with 7,000 kids in it, right? That we've approved. I'm obviously being facetious there, but you understand what I'm saying. Because one of the things we learned when we did weighted lotteries was that a weighted lottery that gives a student only like double the chance doesn't really impact the results. It really isn't until you give students like up 4 times or higher weight that you actually start to see it result. So you do have to take into consideration, like it sounds very good in theory, but again, I wouldn't be opposed to it on a very small scale to see, are parents really willing to put their kids on a bus for an hour one way and an hour one way back bus ride? Like, are they willing to say, yeah, we'll put our kids on a bus at 7 a.m. and not have them, like we need to make sure that it's actually would play out in the way we think it would in a conservative way. I'm all for it. I understand, facilities are available sometimes in areas where they're more accessible, but we would need, in my opinion, we would need to be very conservative and make sure that it worked the way we intended it to work. And then I'll turn it over to Dr. Broughton.
So I just want to make one clarification, because in order to be approved, an application by law does have to meet a need that's identified in this document. But this document identifies 3 needs. It's student demographics, and it gives a list of students, populations that qualify for that. Geographies with consistently underperforming schools, and students at risk of dropping out. So the one you're referring to would be that second one. So you could take that out and you could still have a school that's meeting a demographic and an academic need. So it's not fully dependent on zip codes. That is one option. But if an application does not contemplate serving any of the students identified as having a demographic need, opening in a geography that has consistently underperforming schools or serving students at risk of dropping out of school, the authority would by statute not be able to approve that application. So I totally hear the conversation, but I also want it to be clear in this document, it's not just about zip codes. It is about student demographic groups. Zip codes are kind of the second one, and then students at risk of dropping out. But an applicant does need to sort of speak to and aim to serve at least one of those things in order to be approved, and that is a statutory requirement. So hopefully that provides some clarity, but by no means is anybody like locked down to zip codes. There are certainly other ways to sort of reach that need.
Excellent. Thank you for that clarification. So if I understood you, we don't have a total discretion in the sense that it's a statute that you have to target those particular groups. But what you're saying is you are able to do that in ways beyond just geography and zip code.
Yes.
Excellent. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Are there any other questions from any other board members online or in the boardroom? We have a question from our student member, Matthew.
Matthew Brewer for the record here. I just had a question about how specifically demographic needs are calculated. So are they based off any like disparities between the demographics population and its representation in a school district, or is it based off just the demographics population in like a zip code? Like how exactly is that calculated?
Hopefully Dr. Gatan is on and he can correct me if I answer this incorrectly, but it's looking at the statewide statistics for those student groups is how they calculate it. So it's not necessarily specific to like just Clark County or just charter schools, but overall statistically, how is that bearing out in the state data?
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Did that answer your question? Great. Any other questions? Any additional questions or comments from anyone online or in the boardroom? Any members?
Member Hadad, I just have one comment. Well, maybe two comments. One being, great job. This looks good, and I appreciate the discussion about sort of the multiple components, and would urge any school applying to try very hard to focus on students that have need, and in areas of need. But I was thinking about this as we were looking at the student performance data and sort of the graduation rates and the enrollment data. So maybe this is a little latent, but there was a bill passed last session, and I can pull up the NRS, that requires all state agencies other than law enforcement, government entities other than law enforcement, to begin collecting, anytime demographic data is being collected, to now include an option for Middle Eastern, North African. And I know that it is in full effect at this point and is very slowly sort of making its way as a rollout. But I just wanted to note that I look forward to seeing that included in future. It wouldn't be relevant now, but because we don't have that data, but that being included in the future. And I think it'll be interesting to see, another column and really understand, when that student group gets parsed out, sort of where they fall as far as needs and supports that are necessary, and sort of what that might look like here. So that's all.
No, Melissa Mackin, for the record, thank you for that. I think what the first step for us to be able to do that is for that to be added to Infinite Campus through the state system. So until that happens, it's going to be hard for us to incorporate that in. But I'm glad you flagged that because I can, try to nudge that along and see where we're at in that process.
Thank you. I appreciate that because I want to ensure that our schools also have the opportunity to be in compliance, recognizing that that's a Department of Education function to update that. And so any way that I can support in having that conversation, let me know.
Great. Thanks. Any other comments, additional comments, questions from any board members online or in the room?
Member Stern, I just have one brief comment in response to the comments from Member Salcido. I understand the concern about demographics and the difficulties that our schools have sometimes in finding buildings. And because there was mention about the potential for schools to look at their transportation funding out of their general budget and consider that with the possibility of busing. I do want to reference back to the fact that we also are concerned with the social emotional well-being and the ability for students and their families to be in community with one another, and that if students were being bused in from all over, that the ability to have that community can be extraordinarily challenging, and might also create challenges for families who thought that they were interested, but then discovered that it didn't work. And I would certainly hope that any plan that was submitted that did include significant busing did address a plan from a school for how they were going to make sure that they were meeting sufficient enrollment to maintain their financial stability, and a plan for addressing family and community involvement for students on the social emotional as well as the academic.
Thank you so much for that comment. Any additional comments and/or questions?
But just add, Member Stern brings up a very valid point, which again goes back to like, even if someone has a rock solid plan, we need to in my opinion, would want to take a conservative approach to that, just to ensure that like everything works out the way the plan intends for it to.
Great. Thank you. On that, if there are no other comments or questions, I know the time is currently 11:09, but we only have a few more agenda items. If everyone is okay with us just trying to push through these last 3 items.
Vice Chair Thigpen, for the record, Chair Holmes Sutton got disconnected and is trying to get back on. So I would request maybe a 5-minute recess to see if we can get her back on.
Vice Chair Thigpen, that's fine. We can do 5 minutes. We'll resume at 11:15. assessment.
Tamika, can you repeat that one more time? I didn't have the microphone on for you.
My apologies. I will repeat that one more time. It's currently 11:17. We're going to resume our meeting. We're going to go back to agenda item number 12, the 2025 Demographic and Academic Needs Assessment. We will need a motion for that particular agenda item.
Member Whitaker will motion to move to approve the 2025 Demographic and Academic Needs Assessment pursuant to NRS 388A.220.
Thank you. I'll also need a second.
Member Haddad Bennett, I'll second.
Thank you. All of those in favor?
Aye.
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 Any in opposition? Seeing or hearing none, we will move on to agenda item 13. The charter application and rubric for 2025 applications. I believe this is Dr. Katie Broughton.
Can you see my screen?
We can see your screen.
Perfect. Right. Good morning, SPCSA Board. My name is Katie Broughton, and I serve as the Director of Authorizing for the SPCSA. Within my purview is the new charter application, and I'm here to discuss the proposed changes for your consideration for the 2025 new charter application cycle. This slide includes a brief overview of this presentation. Namely, I will review the SPCSA statutory authority and requirements regarding the new charter application process. I will also include an overview of the proposed changes to the application, and then you will consider approving the application and rubric for the 2025 cycle. It's important to note that while we are making some very minor changes in how the application is evaluated, the information requested throughout the application and qualifications for approval have not changed. This slide includes an overview of the statutory authority and requirements within NRS regarding the SPCSA's duties and powers when it comes to the new charter application. Specifically, it is the role of this board to determine how applications are evaluated and also approve or deny applications. This board is also responsible for laying out the procedure and criteria for which applications are evaluated, which is done through the rubric. NRS 388A.249 lays out additional criteria that an application must meet in order to be approved. The procedures that are required pursuant to NRS 388A.249 are further specified in NAC 388A.260. This includes a deadline, which is currently April 30th, a notice of intent, an application form, completeness check, application withdrawal, information about the review of the charter application, a recommendation to this body, and the final consideration by this body. The criteria that the SPCSA must adopt is adopted through the rubric, which is directly aligned to the application itself. The SPCSA provides applicants with 3 documents throughout this process: the application, the rubric, and the guidance document. The applicant fills out the application while referencing both the rubric and guidance document. SPCSA staff and external evaluators utilize the rubric in order to evaluate the completed applications. The application consists of the cover sheet and 4 sections that all applicants must complete: meeting the need, the academic plan, the operations plan, and a financial plan. The addendum is an additional 5th section that is only required of CMO applicants or applicants that plan to contract with a CMO or EMO. Each section of the application includes both a written narrative in response to the questions in the application, as well as additional attachments, many of which we provide for completion. During the last cycle, so that's 2024, the authority adopted some additional criteria in sections 4.1, 4.2, and 4.3 that were aimed at evaluating the team that is identified in the new charter application. The goal with adopting those additional criteria was to ensure that the application process balanced the importance of the written application with the capabilities and commitment of the people who will open and lead the school. During the 2024 cycle, these additional criteria were evaluated both during the review of the written application and after the capacity interview. However, the criteria, which I will show on the next few slides, are difficult for evaluators to measure through the written application. Therefore, we are proposing that these rubric criteria only be evaluated during the capacity interview and will not receive any ratings during the initial evaluation of the written application. The criteria that I'm referencing for section 4.1, board governance for the 2024 cycle, is on this screen. During the 24 cycle, this rubric criteria was evaluated during both the written application and during the capacity interview. However, if you look at some of these criteria, you'll notice it would be difficult for an applicant or for an evaluator to measure just based on a paper application. For example, it's difficult for a governing board to demonstrate a deep understanding of the educational model, mission, and what mission achievement looks like on paper. It's something that we have to kind of see people do and see their interactions in order to do. So for the 2025 cycle, we are recommending that these criteria only be evaluated during the capacity interview and not rated during the initial review of the application. Similar to the criteria on the previous slide, this criteria was added as a way to evaluate the team identified within the new charter, the leadership team identified within the new charter application. Similar to what I just went over, we are recommending that for the 2025 cycle, this criteria only be evaluated during the capacity interview and not during the review of the written application. It's also important to note that this is only applicable if the committee to form has identified a school leadership team. If they have not, then we're looking at more of the plan to identify school leaders. Finally, section 4.6, very similar to the previous two. This criteria is difficult to evaluate on paper. Again, these criteria were really meant to evaluate the people involved in this work. And so doing it through the written application just isn't giving us the best data. So again, we are recommending that ratings only be provided on these criteria based on the capacity interview and not on the initial read of the application. And with that, I have a proposed recommendation, and I'm also happy to answer any questions anyone may have.
Thank you so much, Dr. Broughton. Do we have any questions from any members online? Don't see or hear. Oh, Member Stern, go ahead.
Just one quick clarification. So all of the criteria listed for 4.1 and 4.2 will not be evaluated. It will only be evaluated on the basis of the capacity interview. Am I to understand that?
Yeah, so, and I probably should have explained this better, but the initial review of the application is just evaluators reading through the written documents and providing scores on each of the rubric criteria. We then conduct the capacity interviews. We have like that gives us preliminary ratings. We have the capacity interview, and then evaluators go back to the rubric and make any determinations if criteria has changed, either like gone up or gone down, based on the capacity interview. And then those give us our final ratings, which is then what we bring to this board. So this contemplates these specific sections of 4.1, 4.2, and 4.6, would only be evaluated after the capacity interview. So there would be no initial ratings. They would just be the final ratings after the capacity interview. But it's also important to note there are other metrics within these sections of the rubric that would be evaluated at the written application.
Okay, thank you for the clarification. That makes a lot more sense. I appreciate it.
Great, thank you. Any other questions from any board members online? Any board members in the room?
Member Haddad Bennett, just a question of, did you guys gather any, in the updating of the application for this, let me rephrase. So with the changes that were made for this version, did you gather feedback from schools or from previous applicants or sort of, was there any input? Like where did the input come from, I guess, is maybe the better question.
Mainly the source of this feedback was from our evaluators who were basically like, I'm having a hard time determining if the governing body demonstrates the ability to work together to solve problems by reading, their resumes. So it was mainly through evaluators. Applicants don't see the initial ratings, they only see the final ratings. And so this change really won't impact applicants because everything about the process stays exactly the same. It just gives sort of the evaluators the most information before making these final determinations.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments in the boardroom or online?
Member Stern, for the record, just for clarification purposes, the rubric is still available to the applicants. So even though they haven't gotten the initial rating, they're not seeing it. Again, just to make sure that we're all on the same page, they understand the criteria under which they're being evaluated prior to the capacity interview. Nothing is changing in terms of transparency.
No, nothing is changing. We just don't. The ratings that evaluators do in the first review is not made public. We allow for the final ratings is what's made public, and that's after both.
Okay, so the same level of transparency exists. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It's just a timing issue, simply because these metrics are just really designed to look at the people involved in this process. And we believe that that's difficult to do well with fidelity when those people are just written on paper.
Great, thank you for that. Any other questions or comments online or in the boardroom? Do not see or hear any. I believe this one also requires a motion.
Board Member Aldava, for the record, I move to approve the new charter school application and rubric effective for the 2025 application cycle. Approve SPCSA staff to add information from and a link to the 2025 academic and demographic needs assessment and the 2025 to 2030 SPCSA strategic plan as approved today.
Thank you so much. Do I have a second?
Thigpen will second.
Thank you, Vice Chair Thigpen. All of those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any in opposition? Seeing or hearing none, that motion passes. Thank you so much, staff, for that work. And we are now moving on to agenda item 14, long-range calendar.
Excellent. We're back to having one long-range calendar. Ms. Potter, do you want to pull that up? Do you mind pulling up the long-range calendar? Sorry, I'll give you a minute. While she's pulling that up, I do just want to point out that we have had our 2025 calendar published for several months now, but I do want to draw everyone's attention to our March meeting date. We were not able to use something took precedence over us on the 14th in this boardroom. And so that meeting has been moved. So I just want to make sure everyone notes that. I believe Teresa has already sent out the updated calendar invite, but I know personally sometimes you get something in your head and you make plans and do these sorts of things. So just really want to draw everyone's attention to that date change there. And then again, just request that if you know you're going to be absent, just let us know in advance so that we can make sure we have a quorum, of course. And then I'm happy to take any questions or comments about the long-range calendar.
Does anyone have any questions or comments regarding the long-range calendar, online or in the boardroom?
Vice Chair Thigpen, for the record. Director McAdam, do we have any updates on like where our meetings will continue to be held, if we're going to just stay at our current facility or move to a different one? I know we've been going back and forth on that.
Melissa Mackin for the record. Yeah, great question, Member Thigpen. When we moved to our new location over on the state campus, they're calling it, it was identified that we would be able to use the new legislative building. It has 9 meeting rooms. It's very beautiful. We were there yesterday. Unfortunately, those meeting rooms aren't all the way done. And then of course session is going to be starting. And so that's really complicating it. So until the session is over, that building is not going to be accessible to us. So I think for just the sake of everyone's mental health, rather than skipping around, because as you can see, every new meeting place uses different technology. And we saw today what a switch in technology, it just causes hiccups, etc. So my preference is really to continue. We're booked out in NDE for the rest of for 2025 here. So my preference honestly is to stay here through 2025, at least until session is over. And we can access the legislative building rooms with consistency. That way we can kind of figure out this technology, get the kinks worked out, and hopefully have like a smooth operation, if that makes sense.
It does. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Chair Thigpen. I was going to ask the same question. Any other questions or comments regarding the long-range calendar? This is Member Shanti Rosales. I do have one. I feel our chair would want me to remind Member Aldaba, we'll be doing our governance standards in January. I know with the holiday, sometimes we forget that we're on schedule for that. So this is just a gentle reminder for everyone.
Thank you. And I do plan to be there in person so I don't run into any technical difficulties.
No worries. If there's no other comments or questions, we will move on to our agenda item 15, which is our public comment number 2. As a reminder, public comment is limited to 3 minutes. And Ms. Teresa, is there any public comment online?
There is not.
Is there any public comment in the room? Seeing none, before we adjourn this meeting, I want to thank everyone for their patience. Oh, you have something?
I also want to thank Member Shanti Rosales, who stepped up to run this meeting kind of at the last minute due to some circumstances beyond everyone's control. So really appreciate her stepping up. She did an absolutely fantastic job with short notice. So thank you.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience and grace as I had to remind myself how to run meetings really quick. Dive in there. So if there are no other comments or anything, we will adjourn the meeting at 11:35 a.m. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend.
Happy holidays, everyone. Thank you.